The world of Dark Souls has always revolved around the soul, be it the ancient Lord Souls or the souls of man, and clearly is that seen in the various mystic arts of the Dark Souls trilogy. Sorcery is the art of the soul, requiring study and intelligence to master, an art wielded in its oldest forms by two important figures: Seath, the scaleless dragon obsessed with crystal in search of imitating primeval scales, as the founding father of sorcery, who wielded it to betray the ancient dragons, and was rewarded with the Duke's Archive to further study and teach sorcery; and the Witch of Izalith, who created and taught her daughters flame sorcery, before using her lord's soul to create the Chaos Flame. In the aftermath of this event, flame sorcery was largely gone from the world, with the demon Fire Sage seemingly as its last wielder, using its weapon catalyst to deal magic damage instead of fire with its attacks. Pyromancy, however, would be born as a new art following this devastation, with embers passed down from the Chaos Flame, sustained and imbued with burned souls, and spread through the ages, like a microcosmic recreation of the linking of fire. We also hear of the ancient golden sorceries from the land of Ulasil, which appear to be mostly linked to light and illusions, and while not said outright, may be the method of sorcery employed by Gwyndolin to veil Anor Londo in its golden facade. I'm not entirely sure of the significance of these golden sorceries. They're very rare, and their nature towards light being the antithesis of the dark within man, does raise some questions to me at least, and I'll likely research the topic more for future theory videos. The pendant we find here also uses golden power to repel the abyss and the dark hexes of Manus. Ulasil is quite the interesting place, as not only do these unique golden sorceries originate from there, but it's likely the dark sorceries, and hexes, came to be only after arousing Manus from slumber, or from the grave, although perhaps they existed in the Ring City even longer than this. They would undeniably spread through the daughters of Manus, however, unto several kingdoms through their quest to become royal consorts, as we see in Dark Souls 2. Another rare oddity exists within the Painted Worlds, where cold sorceries can be seen, although I believe cold sorceries to be an occult form of sorcery that benefits from the dark, as we see it in the paintings which can be remade through the blood of the Dark Soul, and the frigid land of Eliam Lois, ruled by a daughter of Manus who's attempting to subdue the Chaos Flame with her powers. Like the Pyromancers following in the footsteps of Izalith, the school of Vinheim would adopt the study and mastery of sorceries, and would devise many, although they would never learn the old golden and flame sorceries. Logan, perhaps the greatest sorcerer of his time, would master many of these mystic arts, and upon visiting the Duke's Archive, would learn to enhance his spells into crystal sorceries through Seath's knowledge. Crystal sorceries are an odd and rare thing. Seen primarily through Seath, Logan, and the twin crystal sages, it's a unique form of sorcery that does appear to be stronger, and Seath even believed it had the power to mimic primordial dragon scales. He may be onto something as well, as he's stolen a crystal from the ancient dragons that makes him invulnerable through some magic, although the crystal is curiously fragile itself. The gardens of Duke's Archive are one of the few areas patrolled by beings formed of crystal in the Crystal Golems, and in Dark Souls 3, we also see the ravenous crystal lizards use some rudimentary crystal magic. I theorized that crystal acts as calcified souls or soul energy, hence why sorceries can not only be derived but enhanced by it, and why Seath thought it could serve as a path to the primeval immortality of the mineral scales of the ancient dragons. Maybe the original crystals that we see are formed from the remains of the countless ancient dragons slain in Gwyn's rise to power and Seath's betrayal. It's worth noting, after all, that while most souls seem to originate from the four Lord Souls in the First Flame, the dragons seem to inherently possess souls of their own. Not only that, but the dragons wouldn't be the only beings to transform in death, becoming one with the world, as we see in the giants of Dark Souls 2, who upon death slowly grow into great trees. I find this interesting, actually, and it leads me to theorize the giants may be related to the primeval arch trees, perhaps born of them or evolved from them after the world began to change in the Age of Fire, although this is completely speculation. In what also feels like quite the understated oddity, we learn of the healing sorceries of New Londo in the Remedy spell, said to be of the red-robed sealer Yolva. These healing sorceries are unique as that's primarily the domain of miracles. Yolva also seems to have melded the power of the dark with healing sorcery to create the Resist Curse spell, a powerful boon which accomplishes what normally requires purging the curse into a stone vessel to free yourself of. Lastly on our list of soul arts, we have the miracles and the powers born of faith, often seen through prayers and worship of the gods like Gwyn. Before we do, however, we need to talk about the soul arts of From Software's previous title, as I believe there's a lot of overlap here. In Demon's Souls, God created the world along with humanity, whom he gave souls. The humans, however, twisted their souls into spells for the sake of power, and as penance, God sent a demon to the world along with a great fog. In truth, however, the demon is the god known as the Old One. The fog he brings seems to not just veil a place, but cause it to lose its form, fading from reality. The demons it brings devour souls gluttonously and allow the fog to grow thicker as less souls remain to give form to the world. While the magical arts are often believed to be heretical and dangerous, looked down upon by clerics, their own miracles are really a form of the soul arts, no different in form or function. The three main takeaways I want you to bring back from this view into your view of Dark Souls is that perception or form can equal reality, that fog can be seen as a state of unbeing, and that miracles are a form of soul art. For the miracles of the Dark Souls trilogy, it's likely that faith is a manifestation of your inner belief through the soul arts, making the perception of the caster their reality in a sense. This being a power not truly derived from the gods, but from humanity's own will. I believe this fits the themes of the Dark Souls trilogy more than miracles actually being power truly derived from divine blessing. And we also hear of fake miracles later on in this series which still have power, giving further credence to this theory. We can see another instance of this potentially in the repair spell of Ulasil as well, which seems to unwind time on an object to mend it, similar to repair powder. However, I believe it may actually just be returning the image of the past object through light sorcery or golden sorcery, and through perception giving it its old form back. Essentially, perception equaling reality again. The primeval fog that existed in the age of the Archtrees and Dragons was also essentially the primordial unbeing state of the universe, and when fire brought light, heat, and other various senses, this allowed perception and thus gave the world definitive form, driving back the fog. This perception issue could also be seen as a large reason for why time is convoluted. With hollows losing themselves and their perception of reality, the past and present begin to blur together, where they confuse events, details, allowing multiple truths to coexist at once. This could explain why DS2 is so largely disconnected. This land's perception of the world is so warped that their reality has become warped, to an extent, leaving their land trapped, only accessible by crossing the threshold, so to speak, as we see in the DS2 intro, taking the plunge. Anyways, however, that covers the main schools or types of soul art we see throughout the Dark Souls trilogy, but these arts hold a great deal of influence in the Souls series. One of the oldest and most learned places, Vinheim, is a sorcerous land led by the hushed, shadowy machinations of the Dragon School of Vinheim, who practice sorcery and control the region. The Dragon School is one of the eldest and most powerful factions of sorcerers, likely derived from the study of ceased sorceries, and taking its name from the Duke. Many of the greatest sorcerers and magic smiths originate from Vinheim, and the land has its own class of Spellblades, referred to as magic swordsmen, of whom only those on special orders were permitted to wield the stronger variants of the magic armament and shield spells. Vinheim is likely the origin of many of the sorceries we see in the series, especially those designed primarily for human use, like the enhancement spells, just mentioned, or the stealth spells, like Hush and Oral Decoy, that enable their shady dealings and make for good hired thieves or assassins, although at a great cost. Interestingly, however, Vinheim's sorcery is largely standard. With perhaps the exception of those stealth spells that we mentioned, the school never really learns anything else, like the golden, crystal, healing, or dark sorceries found elsewhere. It's likely this over-dogmatic, self-centered focus on mastering the arts within that narrow field is what led sorcerers from Vinheim, like Logan, to travel to far lands in search of better understanding the soul arts throughout the trilogy. Another of the most interesting examples is the land of the Old Iron King. The Old Iron King had found a miracle, a spring of molten iron from which he fashioned a great keep, and with the help of a dark pyromancer named Eygil, they created the Smelter demons, brought to life by flame. This kingdom of fire and iron reigned until the Smelter demon was corrupted by the iron, and killed the Old Iron King by casting him into the molten metal, or maybe I should say corrupting the Old Iron King. Smelter demons are one of the many examples of golems and constructs seen throughout the trilogy. Interestingly, however, I believe they're the only ones that are animated by fire instead of by souls. The blue Smelter demon, whose fire is actually magic damage, could potentially be unrelated to pyromancy, being something that merely looks like fire, or this could be a strange new bridge between pyromancy and sorcery. Perhaps if unfeathered, it could have enabled the return of the fire sorceries through Eygil's magic, Editor Silkrow here. I also meant to say unfettered, not unfeathered, but it is what it is. The soul arts of this series are all deeply fascinating, but I always wished I could find more on the topic, as I rarely see but a few videos on this subject, so I'd like to set out to fix that myself, with a series of videos going into the lore of the arcane arts within From Software's various games. This will be the first of 3 introductory videos, covering the basic forms of the arcane, or the soul arts, followed by Bloodborne and Elden Ring, before we begin the deeper dives. I'd like to try to cover as much as I can and highlight any interesting details or theories I have or believe along the way. Our next video going over Bloodborne will be really fun, as there's quite a lot to talk about. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to check out my Origin of the Amygdalas video, or my Bloodborne 2 Concepts video. Or if you're interested in other game essay content, check out my Lunacid analysis. Thank you all for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe to help make videos like this possible. Thank you.